Well, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, I am not there today. Whew. So, I will be seeing you Monday, though, God willing. So, you have a test next week. Keep in mind, I told you that you have to use the data sheets that I've given you. You're going to need those for your test. Don't lose that. Everything you need has been uploaded if you lose it. Okay? It's not all multiple choice. And even though you're having your notes, it's not going to exactly help you on understanding what you need to understand. Not understanding, but answering the questions. You're going to have to think about them. They just won't be right there in front of you. Retest next Tuesday afternoon. Okay, afternoon only. There is no mornings. Okay. Grade recovery for W4. You guys are going to have to step up if you need that, because I'm pretty sure that's coming up due at the end of next week. You'll either have to send me an email of the stuff you need, or B, do like one of my first period students did, print out everything for me for your grades and hand it in so we can get what you need to get for you. If you have a test or quiz that you have to complete, that must be done in class. All right, the quiz today, please do use your notes. That will help you. You're doing 1 through 10. And if you're doing the web quest, make sure you answer in your notebooks. Okay? Answer those questions in your notebooks and complete sentences, or copy and answer the question as long as it gets done. All right, let's get started. We are going to finish up global warming. I know we went through some of it fast yesterday, but we'll be able to pick up a little bit more today. Fourth period, you do not have these notes, so you're going to have to pause the video in between. Okay? All right, so as we look at the greenhouse effect, water vapor, carbon dioxide, these are some of your major greenhouse gases that you have. The greenhouse gases, remember, trap heat, so it acts as a blanket that keeps the earth warm. And without that greenhouse effect keeping it warm, then Earth will be too cold to live on. So I pointed out to some of you this solar radiation, like this map, and I wish I could get all of you a copy for you to understand better. What happens to some of the solar radiation that comes from the sun? Okay? Does all of it get trapped on Earth? No. And if you look at, and we're not going to look at them in order, but 5 says some heat is able to pass through the gases. Okay? So that water vapor, carbon dioxide, some of the radiation gets to go through the greenhouse gases. Okay? Here it's for 3, it says solar radiation passes through the gases. Some is absorbed as heat. Okay? So now we have an absorption happening, getting us a little warmer. Here, all the way down to the ground, it says solar radiation warms the surface of the Earth. Heat from that and from the Earth's core rises from the surface. Okay? And as you can see in 6, more heat is absorbed and remains in the atmosphere, adding to the overall temperature. So 100% of the sun's rays does not make it to Earth, nor do we store 100% of it. Looking at the greenhouse effect, we just saw what it is. And then we noticed it was a good thing. We want a warm Earth. We do not want an Earth that's too cold to live on. But humans do something, have an impact, and it's not a positive impact. It's actually a negative impact that humanity has on that greenhouse effect that runs smoothly until all the other things start coming up. One of the things is the burning of fossil fuels. And I've lost my mouse. There we go. So the burning of fossil fuels releases CO2 into the atmosphere. In the environmental geology unit, we talked about alternative energies versus the traditional energies that use fossil fuels. The fossil fuels add more of that carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. That's not good for the trees, the plants, human health, anything. Now, what happens when that CO2 is increased? Well, that amount of CO2 or carbon dioxide, when it increases, so does the temperature. And we have that beyond the normal amounts. That is where we have the issues. If fossil fuels and the use of fossil fuels and the increasing of CO2, if those are the negative impacts humans are having on it, what can humans do positively that will make a better impact on the environment from what we have. First up, let's change the way we do things. Let's change the way we have transportation. And instead of everybody driving a single car, why don't we carpool? Another one with transportation is use hybrid vehicles. Hybrid vehicles are part gasoline, part electricity. We've talked about that before, again in the environmental unit. So that's just a review for you. We have this context of what greenhouse effect is. We have the understanding of why there's an increase in CO2. So when we have that increase of global temperatures, because of that increase in CO2, that is the definition of what global warming is. Right there, you see in that bullet, that first topic, what is global warming? Increase in global temperatures from an increase in carbon dioxide. You have to know what that is. Now, what does this lead to? What is the big issue with the global warming? Well, this could lead to the melting of the glaciers. We briefly discussed this looking over the data. When the glaciers melt, that causes the sea levels to potentially rise. This floods coastal towns. Those coastal towns are those towns that are actually closer to the coast, closer to the larger bodies of water. So when the water levels go up, that's potential that more of the water will cover the land. Now that global warming has an effect on the ocean temperature, that too. Ocean temperatures, coastal towns, has other effects. And that global warming has a major effect on the biosphere. What happens when those glaciers melt? Remember the picture? Going back to the picture that we had, what was on top of those icebergs? If you notice the polar bears from the beginning, that was there. Polar bears do drown, and that's the issue. People are like, but polar bears can swim. Yeah, even those that can swim can drown. What happens is they're destroying the habitat. So they have to swim further and further to get to their next spot. And some of them aren't built to take that. So with that, your destruction of habitat for organisms like the polar bears and sea level rising also has an effect on the fishing industry as well, or on the fish as well. All right, how is global warming measured? This is degrees in Celsius of the northern hemisphere. What you notice, and remember the northern hemisphere is where you are. Temperature in the northern hemisphere from 2000 AD, 200 AD to 2000 AD started to take on a shift. And I'm trying to find my mouse again. There we go. So this is about 200 AD. And as you look through, this is 1000 AD, 1800 AD. Whoa! What started happening here around 1900 to 2000? More like 1900 to 1950. What was that caused by? Why were those temperatures doing a massive increase, a drastic increase at that time? Well, that is the start of the Industrial Revolution, and at that time, temperatures began to rise. You've learned that the Industrial Revolution is a revolution where there was more manufacturing that was taking place. Okay, that was becoming the key. So you got more manufacturing, more factories that are being built. All right, and lastly, we are looking at global warming, continuing with this measurement. One of the things I want you to note, and we've gone over this a little bit, but like I said, I want to take some more time with it. As you see through this New Week article, it says global warming is a hoax. And what you don't see, and you can barely see, is down here it says, well, there's a little star or asterisk beside it. You look at this asterisk and it says, or so claim well-funded naysayers who still reject the overwhelming evidence of climate change. Okay? Inside the deny machine. This is telling you, hey, people think that this is a hoax, but it is not a hoax. It is not a hoax whatsoever. there's overwhelming scientific evidence and observation that clearly show that global warming is for real. What do they use? They say, hey, these are their arguments. Before humans, the Earth went through climate shifts. Okay. Second thing they say is there's not enough evidence. There's plenty of evidence. Okay. You're looking at evidence when you did your charts. And in 2009, it says global warming activists knowingly submitted false data to forward their agenda. This is a big no-no negative in the science community. You do not put forth false information just to push what you want to push. In science, it's all about researching. So this became a big issue that led to a lot of people being shunned in the scientific community. Lastly, I want you to listen to this 2-minute video that kind of goes through a little bit more of El Nino and La Nina, which we reviewed the other day.
Warmer or colder than average ocean temperatures in one part of the world can influence weather around the globe. Boggles the mind, right? Here's how it works. During normal conditions, trade winds, which blow from east to west, push warm surface waters towards Asia, piling it up in the western Pacific. In some years, though, the trade winds weaken. The warm surface water moves eastward and reduces upwelling of cold water off the coast of South America. Climatologists call this El Nino. Its climate impacts show up mostly in the wintertime over North America. The warmer ocean fuels an intensification and southward shift of the jet stream. This brings flooding to the southern United States and warmer, drier conditions over parts of the Pacific Northwest, northern U.S., and Canada. But eventually, those trade winds pick up again and sometimes become even stronger than normal. When that happens, they blow the warm water back into the western Pacific and restart the upwelling of cool water towards the surface in the eastern Pacific. These strong trade winds are a signature of what is called La Nina, unusually cold conditions in the tropical Pacific that displace the jet stream northward. La Nina can lead to drought in the southern U.S. and cooler temperatures, heavy rains, and flooding in the Pacific Northwest. El Nino and La Nina together are part of a cycle that influences extreme weather and can impact food production, water supply, and even human health, not just in the U.S., but in many parts of the globe.
All right, guys, well, that is the end of that. Good luck on your quiz. If you have any questions, well, I'm not there to ask. All right, take care. See you Monday.